and welcome to my channel. For this video, I'm going to be showing you how to thread and knot a needle, which on my channel I have Plushie Tutorials. I have a tutorial for each of these little cuties in the background. And on my videos, I usually show how to do the basic hand stitches, but I've never actually shown how to thread and knot a needle, which is by far probably the most important thing you need to know because you can't do any stitch without first threading and knotting your needle. A sewing needle is always going to have one end that is sharp and pointy, so always be careful when using a sewing needle. And then the other end is going to have a little hole in it. For this video, I'm going to be using this sewing needle and some black thread, and the first step is to cut some thread. If you're a beginner, I recommend using a shorter piece of thread because using a longer piece of thread definitely knots up a lot easier. So if you're a beginner, I recommend using the shorter piece of thread, and as you get better with more practice and more experience, you can work yourself up to using longer and longer pieces of thread. Obviously, using a shorter piece of thread means you'll have to, rethread and knot a lot more often while sewing versus using a longer piece of thread. So I'm just going to take the thread and pull some until I get the length that I want, and then I'm going to cut it. Next, you're going to put the thread through the hole of the needle, and if you find difficulty doing this, it may be because the end of the thread is a little frayed, and in this case, I recommend just taking your thread and then also taking some scissors and cut a little bit off at the end. And by doing this, it will cut off all the frayed ends of the thread, and it may be a lot easier to get through the hole of the needle. If you're still having difficulty getting the thread through the hole of the needle, I also recommend just wetting the end of the thread. So put the thread through the hole of the needle, just like this, and then pull the other end. Now you're going to take this end of the thread and pull it all the way so that the two ends of the thread line up, like this. After you have the two ends lined up, you're going to push them together like this, and then you're going to form a loop, like that, and then you're going to take the thread and pull it through the loop. So to show you that again, you're going to form a loop, like this, and then you're going to pull the thread through the loop to form another knot. I recommend knotting the thread quite a few times because I find whenever I knot it only one or two times, it tends to go right through the material and then I end up having to re-knot the thread, which can be quite annoying. So that's just my little recommendation. I usually knot the thread about 5 or 6 times and it looks something like this. Honestly, when I sew my plushies, I usually will hide the knot within the plush so you don't see it on the outside. So having a big knot like this doesn't really matter to me because I ultimately will not be seeing it on the outside. Now that you have your needle threaded and knotted, the last step is to take some scissors and then cut off the excess thread. And congratulations! Once you get to this point, you will have a threaded needle with a knot at the end, and now you can get started sewing. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I also really hope it helped you learn how to thread and knot a needle. If it did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Every little bit of support really helps out my channel. Like I said earlier, I have plushie tutorials for each of these little guys in the background, so if you want to learn how to make them, I'm going to be putting links down below in the description box, so go check that out. If you have any future video suggestions, such as plushie tutorials or different types of hand sewing techniques or anything like that, let me know down in the comments. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and goodbye.